Hello there folks, and welcome back to another speed paint video. This video I've got something, at least to me, that feels kinda nostalgic. I've got a Hexafusion speed paint. Now, I'm going to be completely honest here, I was completely inspired by the fact that Drawfee just did a Hexafusion speed paint video. But to be fair, this is an idea that I've kind of been thinking about for a while, and I guess seeing the Drawfee video just gave me the kick in the pants I needed to really have a good idea for it and to feel inspired to actually sit down and do one of these. If you're not already familiar with the Hexafusion, it's basically this three-way fusion thing where you take 3 character designs and then you fuse them each as the pairs, and then at the end you make a fusion of all 3 designs. Ultimately, it's actually 7 designs total, but basically, it's called a Hexafusion because there are the 3 base designs and then the 3 pairs, and I don't know if everyone always does the middle, but I've only ever seen variants where the middle's also done, so. Basically, a Hexafusion is just, at least to me, it feels like this old-fashioned art trend. Well, not that old-fashioned, but it's an older art trend from, like, my generation. Like, I remember seeing a lot of Pokémon Hexafusions, for example, back in, like, maybe middle school, maybe when I was first getting online, I would see a lot of these. Before I had even made any accounts on anything like DeviantArt or Tumblr or anything, I would like just browse on like freaking Google Images and see a lot of images like this, and I always thought they were kind of interesting. And I've always kind of wanted to do one of these with Pokemon designs, but I just never sat down to actually do it. And I don't know, I feel like it would be cool to bring this trend back. I remember it had a bit of a resurgence in like 2015, 2016, when Steven Universe was at like the peak of its popularity, and I remember people would make it with like the crystal gems because they hadn't revealed the Garnet and Pearl fusion yet. And I don't know, I think this idea has a lot of potential for like fun things on like what makes a character design recognizable, how to mix a thing evenly, and honestly just to have fun making original-ish designs based on pre-existing characters. At least for me, I think that's part of the appeal. So today I'm going to be fusing 3 very popular Eeveelutions in a Hexafusion, those being Espeon, Umbreon, and Sylveon. I've been meaning to do fusions with these guys for a while actually as part of a speed paint, and the Hexafusion format just gave me a perfect excuse to go ahead and do pretty much every variation I could with these 3. So without further ado, let's get into the speed paint. The first one of these is one that I've had on my mind for a while and finally decided to sit down and do, and that is the Espeon and Sylveon fusion. Now, I feel like Espeon and Sylveon, like, I don't know, I wasn't expecting their colors to be as tricky as they were to incorporate into each other, but I felt like their shapes went together really well. Like, I feel like Sylveon's very detail-focused body with all sorts of things like the ribbons and all that mixes well with Espeon's very simple, sleek design, and I tried to incorporate like as much Espeon as I could while still keeping that semi-complicated feel that Sylveon has. So of course I incorporated the ribbons, and in the middle of those ribbons I incorporated that red gem that is featured on Espeon's forehead, and I made that the color for the nose as well. I tried to make this color palette very Espeon focused, since I feel like a lot of the shapes are going to be very Sylveon focused, especially the head crest and the little boot type markings on the feet. And I also exaggerated the twin tail to make it almost feel like, I don't know, a ribbon in and of itself, and also to kind of mimic the long, slightly furry tail that Sylveon has, whereas Espeon I think just has like that sleek twin tail. I also incorporated, Espeon has like, I guess these whiskers or something like that, these little frills on the side of its ears, that I feel like really make its silhouette stand out and are pretty much the most interesting thing it's got for its silhouette aside from the twin tails. And it's these like couple of features that I think really pull in the Espeon vibe into this character design. I also made the eyes like this deep blue, kind of inspired by the key art that you see for Espeon, where it has like these dark bluish purple eyes that are glowing, but Sylveon's eyes are also blue, so I thought this deep, kind of saturated, almost marbly sort of blue eye really suit this design and felt like a good middle ground between Sylveon's like magical pastel light colored eyes versus like Espeon's dark yet glowing eyes. And I don't know, I just felt very happy with this in the end. This was a very simple, cute design that feels like a good 50-50 between these 2 Pokemon. the next fusion I did was Umbreon and Sylveon. Just like with the Espeon Sylveon fusion, I feel like Sylveon has like a more modern take on a slightly more complicated, more complex Pokemon design, whereas Umbreon's a little bit more old-fashioned. It's a very simple, sleek design, and I think that's part of what makes it so popular and so, I don't know, timeless, I guess, is that it's so simple, and yet I think it still has a good amount of detail with it, obviously with the rings, and the fact that it has like the only just like dark eye among the Eeveelutions, like it has actual like little slit pupils instead of just like those big eyes that every other Eeveelution has. So I feel like that really makes Umbreon stand out from them, and I wanted to make sure this character design also had that feature. I tried to incorporate a lot of Sylveon's colors as well while making the body mostly Umbreon-like. I didn't want to take away too much from Umbreon, and I didn't want to make it too Sylvie either. So I incorporated the ribbons just like with Sylveon. I made this pose basically the Umbreon official art pose with a little bit of a, I don't know, like a slightly show-offy flair, I guess. I tried to incorporate the blue and pink that you see in Sylveon's design in as many of the rings and stuff as possible to add a little bit of extra, I don't know, visual interest into the design and make it feel a little bit more Sylveon-like. And I also made the stripes on the ribbons and bows be the yellow like the original Umbreon rings, because I thought it would be kind of interesting to use Sylveon colors for the regular Umbreon rings and then Umbreon colors for the Sylveon stripes. Plus it makes it seem like the ribbons actually glow in the dark, just like the rings on Umbreon do, and I thought that would be a really cute design. I also made its nose a cute little golden color because I thought that would be really charming. And I put this guy in a nice dark background to really make it feel like it's this glowing nightlight in the middle of the night. Like, I don't know, there's something very, like, mysterious and magical about this design that feels like a really good middle ground between Umbreon and Sylveon, and they were a really interesting mix to put together. Just like with the Espeon fusion, I made sure to make the eyes blue, but this time I made the coloration very similar to the original Sylveon design. But like I mentioned before, Umbreon does have those slit eyes, so I wanted to really make sure to put that in there, so it reads clearly as a good 50-50 between both Umbreon and Sylveon. I actually made the Espeon Sylveon fusion do a sitting pose kind of similar to Espeon's original design, so I thought that would be kind of fun to sort of reference these original poses to help reference the Gen 2 Eevees, while taking a lot of inspiration from the shapes present in Sylveon. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this design too. I think it came out very striking and very charming. And of course, the last pair fusion would be just with Umbreon and Espeon. There's not a lot of specific silhouette things these two have going on, I feel like. Like, Umbreon has very rabbit-like ears, I feel like Espeon, like I said, has those big whiskers and the twin tails. So trying to turn both of these very simplistic designs into an in-between was a little bit tricky. I gave it this pose where it looks like it's standing a little bit menacingly, like it's standing its ground, and I tried to give it a very Espeon-feeling body with the ears, but have them kind of pointing up the way that Umbreon's do, and make them a little bit pointy as well. I gave it the whiskers, just like Espeon has, and I also gave it big red eyes, just like Umbreon. And of course, we have the big, beautiful glowing rings everywhere, as well as the gem present on the forehead, just like the original Espeon. I did a lot to keep this palette very simple. I actually went through a couple iterations. I thought about making it just purple, I thought about making it like a light gray sort of thing. Ultimately, I settled on something a lot more Umbreon-like. So what we have here is a character design that has a lot of shapes borrowed from Espeon, with a color palette that is very much borrowed from Umbreon, but still borrows some Espeon colors, such as this pink undertone, which I grabbed basically from the idea of that red gem. I also made the twin tails a bit of a mix of both the Umbreon tail and the Espeon tail, where it's not like a long, slender stick, I guess, that Espeon has, but it's not like just that tube that Umbreon has either. It's a bit of both. It's a twinned tube, I guess you could say. And I feel like it makes it look very distinct, like you wouldn't mistake this thing for being just Espeon or just Umbreon. I think despite the troubles this deceptively simple design gave me, I managed to find a decent middle ground between the two of them. And I don't know, something about combining these two really throws me back into thinking about Pokemon Coliseum and playing that as a kid. And this design feels like maybe it could have been seen in an old Coliseum game. Maybe that's my nostalgia goggles talking, but either way, I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out, even though, honestly, it probably gave me the most trouble out of all of them. And And of course, it just wouldn't be a proper Hexafusion grid if I didn't combine all 3 of these Eeveelutions into one design. So my goal wasn't just to grab them and put them all together, I also wanted to borrow some elements from the other 3 designs I had made before. So I kind of borrowed this, I guess in retrospect it kind of looks like an Espeon headdress that the original Espeon Sylveon is wearing. And I tried my best to, I don't know, I tried to make it very Sylveon-like, since I feel like the other designs that incorporated Sylveon were very much like Umbreon or Espeon with Sylveon-like features. So I tried to let Sylveon really take the lead. I had a lot of extra ribbons just because I thought it would be fun to really go over the top with this triple fusion. And I added those classic Espeon whiskers, and of course I added the rings to represent Umbreon's design. And I just really went pretty ham with this. I made the twin tails very simple and very much like a classic Espeon, since I didn't want to overcomplicate this design. Like, I wanted this to definitely feel the most complicated out of any of the designs today, since it is a combination of 3 different Pokemon, but I also didn't want it to feel too noisy or too cluttered. So I tried my best to find a balance between, like, making it complicated and keeping it simple, which is more difficult than you would think. Easier said than done, for sure. I tried to mix the colors of the 3 Pokemon using the ribbons, such as using white ribbons like Sylveon's traditional color, but using the blue that you see in the dark part of Espeon's ears, and the yellow from Umbreon's rings, and of course the purple that kind of represents this middle ground of the colors between Espeon and Sylveon. I ended up making the body for this Pokemon quite dark, and that's because I really wanted the Umbreon rings to have a lot of contrast. I felt like if I had left it be like a mid-tone, the rings would have not stood out as much as they do on the original Umbreon design, and I think a lot of the purple Espeon Sylveon type colors also would have been lost and become muddy if I didn't stick to such a nice dark color. So while a lot of these designs today are very dark, the reason for that is because I want the Umbreon features of the rings to really stand out. Since they're very light against a dark background, I think that's when they look their best. Although I did also incorporate glowing wing elements in some of the other mid-color areas, but those aren't really the focal point as much as the body is. Such as you can see on the ribbons, you can see the glowing thing, and you can also see on the bows, which also still have that red glowing gem from the Espeon and Sylveon fusion that I did earlier. I tried to make the face kind of this mix of all 3 guys. I really wanted to go with very much Sylveon's eyes, since the other representations really leaned into Espeon and Umbreon's eyes, and I ended up making this sort of crown sort of look between the purple markings on the top and the ring, and I ended up putting the gem like kind of in with the ring instead of in the middle, since when I was putting it in the middle it was causing a lot of tangents that looked awkward, but where it is now, it kind of makes it look like it's wearing like a magical girl crown. Like, something about it feels very Sailor Moon adjacent to me, and that feels very appropriate for this Pokemon's design. I really wanted it to feel like a nighttime magical girl sort of thing. Like, I don't know, I wanted it to feel like you would see it at the break of dawn or the beginning of dusk, and I feel like it managed to hit this. And just like with the Espeon and Sylveon fusion, I didn't want to do just a dark background for this one. To balance out the entire speed paint video, I really wanted to do like this glowing, rainbowy, magical, almost sky color palette background, since I thought it would kind of evoke the feeling of a magical girl transformation, and give that kind of otherworldliness that I think the fairy type is most associated with, at least in my mind. And coloring these lines was a bit of a pain, but I think it really elevates this design quite a bit. I feel like it makes the colors look way more vivid and way more lively, and I think the liveliness really helps bring this design to life, and I'm really just happy with this one. It was a little bit tricky to come up with, but I'm very happy with the balance of complexity and simplicity, and I think it's a very charming little Pokemon fusion. And with that, that's our entire Hexafusion grid complete. Which of these designs was your favorite? Is it one of the pair fusions, or is it the 3-way fusion that you see in the middle? Honestly, it's really hard for me to decide. I think I like all of these fairly evenly, but my favorites are probably the Umbreon Sylveon fusion and the middle fusion. Let me know in the comments below which one of these was your favorite, and let me know if you want to see any more Hexafusion videos and what Pokemon you would like to see me fuse. I'm thinking I might do my top 3 favorite Pokemon as a Hexafusion one of these days, that being Xatu, Mimikyu, and Chikorita, so let me know if you'd like to see that. Let me know if you have any other ideas for a Hexafusion character design. I'm open to doing more than just Pokemon. I just feel like Pokemon really easily lend themselves to a thing like this, and that's what I associate the Hexafusion format with from my childhood anyway. If you'd like to support me, I recommend checking out my Ko-fi page. There I have things like emotes, zines, art resources, adoptables. You can even support me monthly or commission me if you would like, and any support I get on my Ko-fi really helps me to help, you know, keep my art thing going, helps me find the time to be able to do these things and to consistently upload on this channel. And I really, really appreciate it. I really want to make a good living off of doing what I love, which is things like this. So any support you can give me is seriously helpful. Seriously, if all of you guys gave me like $1 every month, all of you being the subscribers, like, that would be a huge deal for me. So any support, no matter how small, I really do appreciate it. And if you don't have the money to give, feel free to just follow my Ko-fi too. I try my best to post updates on there about what I'm up to and what projects I'm working on, so it's kind of like a mailing list too. And if you would like to see more of these kinds of videos, more speed paints and such, feel free to subscribe. I put out a video every Friday, and so far I haven't missed any, so I'm trying my best to keep that schedule, keep that streak up, and I'm excited to bring you guys another speed paint next week. With that, I believe that's everything I've got for you guys today. So, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you again next week with another art video. And in the meantime, why don't you guys go out there and make some art?